Ready.
This is Pod With Me, and I'm very excited about today's guest. She's been through many obstacles, and it comes to show us that you can survive anything if you put your mind to it. You're gonna feel brand new by the end of this podcast, I promise. Get ready, because the pod starts now.
I actually believed that I wasn't enough, or that I was my guilt, or I just thought that's the cards I've been dealt. And that's not true.
Are you ready? Let's go.
Let's go. Are you ready to pod? Let's go. Are you all ready?
Let's do it. Let's talk.
Are you ready to pod?
Alex J. Aguirre.
Alex, are you ready to pod? Hey, are you all ready? We are ready. Let's get to it.
Ready.
You're listening to Pod With Me, and this is Alex J. Aguirre. And today I'm with a very special guest. Her name is Britta Aragon. Why is she special? Well, you're about to find out right now. Hi, how are you, Britta?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the pod.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you always.
Now, Britta, for those that don't know, what is your career? What is that you do to help people? Because she does help many people.
Well, I was led to be here in this place through a series of many career moves and many different things. But today, what I'm doing specifically is I'm a life coach, and I do this by either helping individuals working privately or through joining a group program that, host that's called Detox to Destiny, or they can come to a retreat that I host around the world. And from that, it's expanding. There's a lot of big plans in the works. How to really get my company to go to the next level so we can impact more people. And really, the purpose of my life coaching is really to allow people to understand that they have the power to direct their thinking, and that how can we help them remove the blocks so that they can awaken to their divine assignment, their calling, what they're truly, truly here for, what their purpose is.
That's right, because all of us that come to this universe have a purpose, and some are a little lost and can't find the way. And Britta here helps them find that way, right? Correct?
Well, we always say within the team and with my coaches, we always say that everybody, because people think they actually don't have a purpose. Like a lot of people say, no, I don't have a purpose. It's not me. I'm just, and that's not true. It's like everybody has a purpose. And I always look at purpose like a fixer. Mm-hmm. I always say, like a raincoat, the purpose of a raincoat is to keep you dry. The purpose of a light is to give you light. Mm-hmm. And every single soul that's on this earth had a purpose before they were in their mother's womb, and finding out your purpose is a skill. It's a process. It's an excavation. And so we all don't know how to do that.
Exactly. So. And many people get, they have some veils that cover their path to the purpose, because some believe that maybe the purpose is being a big star or something huge, or they believe that fame is what their purpose is, or and they get lost along the journey of what is really a purpose about, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that you mentioned that, because when people come and work with me, they say at first we call them their egoic goals, right? And you know this very well from your background and where you've been in showbiz. And like a lot of the purpose can get clouded by the egoic goals, and then we feel empty, or we feel like where we're going is not, like nothing is enough, because we're not really truly fulfilled, because at the end of the day, the motivator was clouded by ego. So it wasn't an authentic purpose, or an authentic, not that it was malicious. Like, I think the intention is always or maybe not. I think people get to a point in your lives where maybe it is about, like, I'm at the point that I just want to help people. Mm-hmm. Right now in my life, I'm surrounded by a lot of big sort of different people that are in business opportunities, and everything I've been hearing from all of them is, I just want to make an impact. I just want to make it. So I know I'm with my soul. Like, I know I'm with the right people right now, because that's very much my purpose. But that's okay. Like, it's a process, right? It's like the hero's journey, mm-hmm. right? Joseph Campbell, right? It's like you've got to sort of go through that, and then there's sort of an ego death that happens, and then there's a rebirthing process of what's always been there in the first place, that calling. But we just have to remove the fog, the cloud, the residue, the covering, the veil, as you said.
The veils. And it's funny because last week's episodes on our quickies, I had Finding Life's Purpose. and one episode on that, and one on the ego. So look at that, and here we are. It all comes together.
Yeah, and I found really this fascinating because I come from the beauty world, and I created a beauty brand that was really to help people as well. There was a legacy behind that, and that was really to honor my father. He had cancer, and I couldn't find products for him when he was going through chemo and radiation. Anyway, my point is that when I took a left turn and I sort of coaching found me, and it was through the Course in Miracles that I was able to really understand how to train the mind. Like, there's two thought systems in our world, and 99.9% of the world lives under the rules of fear. So they are in the habit of listening to the fear thought system. And so I became fascinated with that. I'm like, oh my God, like I actually can train my mind to see the best in everything. I can actually look at all the good things about a tragedy. And whenever something goes wrong, I could say, oh, well, God must be redirecting me, without reacting, without, blaming, without going into anything. And it's an honor to be able to show people like, wow, like we don't know this. I never knew I wasn't my fear. I actually believed that I wasn't enough, or that I was my guilt, or I just thought that's the cards I've been dealt. And that's not true. That's all the stories.
The little ship that was programmed into you as you were growing up, that people would say, oh, you can never be that, you can never be this. And look, if it wasn't for you paying attention, then you can change things around.
That's right.
So let's talk about Britta. Britta, where are you from?
So I was born in Mexico City.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was there till I was 10, and then I moved to Vancouver, Canada with my whole family. And then when I was 30, I moved to New York City.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, I was when I was.
What happened when at 20?
I'm at 10. I moved to Vancouver, and I was there for 20 years.
Okay.
Then I went to Vancouver.
And what were you doing there as far as work and stuff? What was your career back then?
I was in my 20s. It was a little challenging. It was dark. I had cancer when I was 16 years old. And I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that was really my first experience in understanding the mind and really seeing firsthand that the body, that your cells listen to your mind, because I was supposed to have chemo and radiation, over a year, and all I wanted to do, Alex, was just feel good so I could go out on a Saturday night to be with my girlfriends, or to go to the mall or the dance.
And you were, at this stage, you couldn't go out, obviously.
Well, I would have chemo on Thursday, and then I would have to be in bed for Friday, and then Saturday I was just waiting to feel so good for Saturday so I could go out. And so the body, I never thought I was sick, Alex. Like I got to take these medicines. I got to go get this chemo thing, but let me get over this so I could go out and live my life. Yeah. And I ended up having chemo just for 3 months and no radiation. And the oncologist couldn't believe. And I just think, wow, like ignorance is bliss. You don't think you're sick. Eventually you're informing the body, I'm not sick. The body's going to follow the instructions from the mind. And so anyways, but that did lead me to go sort of a dark path where I developed an eating disorder right after that. I got into heavy drinking. So my 20s were really spent dealing with the wreckage of what cancer did.
Usually people that survive this, they keep very healthy so it won't come back. Did that ever cross your mind while you were with your eating disorder and stuff, that, by being this way, maybe I could trigger something that it comes back?
I was just trying to cope.
Right.
I was just a teenager trying to cope with the emotions, what just happened to me. I didn't process anything. So I don't think it was at my forefront, like, how can I be healthy? More like, how can I actually cope with everything that I'm feeling? Exactly. And, I didn't have the emotional aptitude, maturity to even handle what had happened. So, but yes, I got into vitamins and I studied nutrition, and it did get me interested in nutrition. And
what was the switch? When was that moment that you changed it around?
Well, I think when I wasn't eating, and then people started commenting on how thin I was, and it just, yeah, I mean, it was clear, but I didn't have a solution. And here's the deal. Like, I just saw that there was a big blind spot that happened when I was sick. I never got put into going to see a social worker or counselor. My parents were like, okay, you're in remission, go back to school, like, this is amazing. And then there was this big gap that someone forgot to tell me about or help me through and support me through, which was, how do you feel? What just happened to you? Can we talk about it? No one did that. So I went right into addiction.
Amazing. Nowadays, do they have those programs where they help people that survive?
Yes. Now, my mom just got diagnosed with, how interesting too, like twofold. Like, my dad died of cancer, and I created the product line because of him. And I had my story, and now my mother is just diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's going to be okay. She has radiation, but now she's using my products that I created in the legacy of my father. Like, here's the big thing. The Course in Miracles talks about lesson 25. We never know what anything is for. Like, I think I'm creating this product line for this, but then years later, there's a greater purpose. I think I'm doing this interview here with you so I can share a story, but I have no idea what is, like, we don't know what anything is for, and we have to stay so open for all possibilities and not limit ourselves by saying, I know what this is for, because there's a greater, purpose to all our meetings, all our interactions. And so my point on what I was telling you about the product line was that it's like, yeah, I just don't know what it's for. But when you ask me if there is programs today, yes, there's the development of care now, like volunteers driving cancer patients back and forth to their treatments, like available phone numbers. My mom got like a booklet of phone numbers. If you ever want to talk to someone that's gone through this, just give them a call. They're volunteering.
And look how important that it is nowadays that they have all these support systems for people who survive it, and you had nothing at that moment, and it led to that.
And I was 25 years ago, yeah. So funny enough, in my 30s, I got together with this girl that had the exact same, meaning we met, and she had the exact same cancer I did, and she felt the exact same thing. Like, I couldn't deal with it, and she also went into addiction. And so we wrote a program called Cancer's Over, Where's the Party? Meaning, cancer's over and everyone's celebrating, and we're going, where the F is the party? Because there is no party. Like, there's a stage that you have, season, if you will, that you have to really heal, and people don't give you the space. They're like, you should be happy, you survived, what are you depressed for? And it's like, and we haven't done anything with it, by the way. I mean,
that's a great title.
Right? Cancer's over, where's the party? And I did write a book that was about cancer, but it's interesting. So who knows? Maybe that was supposed to be written, and now I'm supposed to do something with it. But yeah, now that we're talking about it,
I think you should. It's time for it.
I think so, right?
Yeah. And tell us about the product that you did for your father. What's it?
Yeah. So that's called CV Skin Labs, and it stands for Cinco Vidas, which means 5 lives, because he had 5 reoccurrences of cancer. And I always knew, when you asked me about my 20s, like, tell me about your 20s, and I started telling you, well, they were a little bit dark, and that's what I meant by it. There was a lot of addiction and the eating disorder, but I always knew, I always had something in me. I was a big dreamer. I didn't really believe that I would achieve my dreams, but I had something in me that told me that I would one day start a skincare line, write a book. And that was on my vision board in my 20s. And sure enough, who knew that part of maybe a soul contract I had with my ex-husband, because after Vancouver, I moved to New York City. At 30, I got married. And that is when I started CV Skin Labs and when I wrote my book. So New York was all about my career. And that really, when I started, he said, why don't you just go to NYU, take some courses on entrepreneurship and see where you can start. And my dad was still alive at this point, and he said, Britta, you must find a niche. You must make it different. And so one day I walked into his room, and he was having side effects from the chemo, neuropathy, swollen hands, hand and foot syndrome. And I went and grabbed some aloe vera that we had a plant and a cold cloth, and I wrapped it around his hands. And the immediate thing I saw in his eyes, Alex, was this relief. He's like, ah. And I was like, well, what are they giving you in between? And they're like, the nurses gave me that cream, but it doesn't work, and I don't know what to do. And at that moment, I was like, this is what my skincare line is going to be for. And that's all she wrote. I hired 3 doctors from Yale and UCLA, and my ex-husband funded everything, and it took me 3 years to launch it. And I did research. I went into chat rooms, and I hired a chemist from the UK, and we went into massive research for ingredients, and everything is taken care of. The bottles were designed for people that had neuropathy, so they could actually hold it. Nothing has open jars, so there's no contamination. I mean, I thought of so many things to, not only are we in environmental packaging, like there's no glue, but the ingredients in it, turmeric, reishi mushroom, bisabolol, which were all studied for the ability to shrink tumors when they were taking internally during clinical trials, even though you can't shrink tumors when you apply it topically. But whatever, it was, to me, it was all just a continuation of just bringing that whole story of these ingredients. And the brand, people, I mean, it's helping. Now my mom's using it for her. Amazing. I mean, right? Who knew?
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, what an inspirational story. I think that people that are listening to this, definitely, whether they're already made it, whether they're not, it's an injection of inspiration. Talk to me about now, after you recover from everything, as far as the addiction, as far as everything, from where did you go next?
Well, in my 30s, I still really wasn't recovered. I was still active in the eating disorder. It was I had tried to go and, like, I had recognized it now in my 30s. I was like, I need help because it's too exhausting. And I did, I sort of got some help, but I don't think I was ready. I think living in New York City really fueled this whole thing about, going to all the magazines, doing desk sides, doing interviews with Telemundo, and just it fueled that thin and looking a certain way, being in the beauty world, this, being in the entertainment industry, it's sort of, it's hard. It fueled it. And that's okay. I wasn't ready. I believe that, God gets ready and then he gets us ready. And so in my 30s, it really wasn't until, so fast forward my 30s, I'm living in New York City. I created the brand, launched my book, and it wasn't until I turned 40, I actually divorced and got the brand. The brand, we got partners. It was all led by God. So the brand is now in someone else's hand, because I believe I was meant to be the one that had to be in the trenches, creating with my meticulous eye for design, and the chemist saying, let's just put this sort of chemical to make it feel the way you want it. Let's just put silicone in it or dimethicone. I'm like, no, because the brand is non-toxic, it's completely organic and natural, but it had to be efficacious, which took a lot of tries, because when it's all green, it was difficult. So I think it took me, but now it had to be in the hands of other people who the brand is doing great. And so I turned 40, and I kind of had an eat, pray, love moment. All of a sudden, I was guided to leave New York City. I put all my stuff in storage. I divorced, turned 40, and turned over the company all in the same month, May 2015. So June 2015, I was in 2 suitcases, no longer running a brand, no longer a wife, no longer living in New York City, and going, who the hell am I, and what am I doing? Wow. And I ended up taking a trip over. I ended up traveling through Europe and the Middle East and Africa. And that is, when you ask me about when did I heal, that's when I started to heal. That's when I just remember, that's when I found the Course in Miracles. I was in Malaga in the south of Spain, in an apartment, beautiful apartment by myself with a car, and going, oh my God, I'm doing this by myself. So that alone was like, I just was determined to break fears in those trips. I was determined to break my own glass ceilings. I was determined to, oh, she can't do that. Oh, yes, she can. Oh, she can. Like, how is she going to? And through that, I started this coaching company. And the company made over 6 figures in the first year as I was traveling the world in working 3 days a week and taking the last week out of the month off. And I started to coach people. It's called Detox Your Life, and how to detox from. So I had to really start doing my own work, because if I was now going to be in the shoes of being trusted by God to help others, I had to walk myself out of the darkness to be able to walk someone else. Yeah. And so it got real, and I'm sorry if I'm
No, it's fine.
yeah, it got real. And so I had to do my work. And in Egypt, I was in Egypt with 2 other girlfriends. That's when it all got real. And that's when I healed a 24-year eating disorder. And today it's almost been like 4.5 years. And I can't even believe that my own eyes can see myself in the mirror and not be critical or judge myself. Like today, I'm a woman of worth. Today, my worth comes from how well I extended love and who I am as a human being, not what I look like, and I still care about what I look like, but it doesn't define me. And I never, ever, ever, ever thought that would happen in my wildest dreams, ever. And I think people listening to me that have that sort of body image, or, like you, I don't know if you imagine ever seeing differently, but it's possible. It's a miracle. And it all starts with the mustard seed of the willingness. I just remember saying to God, I said, okay, I know nobody is going to love me in the way I deserve to be loved if I don't love myself. If all I think I am is a size, if I need to be, a size 2, and I'm worthy, then that's never going to work. I'll always be living in fear, because what happens when I'm not a size 2? Then
in the material world, and what's not real in life.
That's right. So all I did, Alex, this just little thing, but I think is so profound. I just remember praying every morning, and I'm not really religious, but I believe in, to me, this source energy I call God. And I grew up Catholic, but that was a different punishing God. And today, to me, God is love, And all I did is I prayed, and I said, please help me to desire your plans for me more than my ego's plans, and help me to desire to heal more than to stay stuck. And I prayed that prayer for 3 months. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm done. There was no fireworks. It wasn't this magical thing. It was just like, I'm done.
It's a feeling.
Yeah. I just knew I was complete. I was done struggling with that. I had gotten that force. It's almost like I was able to bring the invisible world into my problem, and the strength and the courage were given to me.
Amazing, Britta. And right now, tell us about how can people get in contact with you, and tell us about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so in this moment now I'm still coaching, and it's oh my God, it's growing. So I run groups called Detox to Destiny, which I run through people what I did in my own life. Detox from addictions, guilt, shame, old perceptions, old patterns, trauma, through the Course in Miracles, through Kundalini Yoga, through Ayurveda, and through shamanic ceremonial techniques from the sacred feminine, it's about holding and how to hold any limiting belief with unconditional love. It's just profound work. And I do that through retreats or through work. And right now I'm launching my website. And can you believe that this business was built, and it was built through maybe just social media, but no website. So I'm launching my website called brittaaragon.com in 2 weeks. But they can find me through social media and, Facebook. I have a page. And so doing retreats right now. My next group, Detox to Destiny, launches in September.
And what's the website?
brittaaragon.com.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And,
And social media?
Social media, brittaaragon.com, and Detox Your Life in Facebook.
Awesome. And the next retreat is in September?
The next retreat is going to be in Ajijic, Mexico, and which is 35 minutes out of Guadalajara, and it's going to be in January 2020. And and I mean, there's so many things we're working that I can't speak of right now. But
tell us a little bit about when people get in contact to go to your retreat.
Yeah,
they come from all over the world, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And is it only women or men as well, or?
It's both, and it depends what the themes are. Like we had one in Ibiza, which was how to dissolve the lie of not enoughness, and that was both men and women. Then we went to Tuscany just last fall, which was coming back to wholeness. So we healed a lot of unmet emotional needs. I had doctors there, CEOs, athletes. So, and then I just came back from Argentina. I did one on the sacred feminine, which was just all women. But in Ajijic, it's men and women. And it is about breaking glass ceilings and upper limiting beliefs so that you can raise that glass ceiling yourself on how to accept more love and more money, more abundance, because we have that inner barometer that says, okay, I've had enough love, so it's time to go eat, it's time to cause a fight, it's time to walk away from this relationship because I'm uncomfortable. I'm used to accepting a certain amount of love or content and I'm in my comfort zone. So we push things away, we sabotage things. And until you can break your own glass ceilings, you're going to continue to sabotage. So I'm running this with a great, another guy that we're just putting together. He's an ex-athlete and he's just all about this. So but they come from everywhere. It's like they're not just from a certain, and they all have a sacred contract to do this work together, right? Like even you and I, we have this divine contract to do this and much more that we're talking about.
That's right, because Britta's going to have a podcast soon, and this podcast could be 3 hours, and nobody will turn it off listening to you. I love everything you're saying, and I want to know a little bit more about the retreat. People are probably wondering how much is it to go, how long is it for?
So the retreats are usually, we found the sweet spot. So they're 8 days, 7 nights, equal amount of exploration in the culture, equal amount of transformative work. We also invite other healers to come in, whether depending on the theme of what it's going to be. So breath work or sound healing. And there's equal amount of relaxation and downtime. So the retreats are anywhere between $3,000 to $6,000, depending on where they are. And
and you bring in the retreat you have a lot of specialists from all over and important people that are there just to do that work.
It's networking too. Like people meet each other too, and they may go start a business together, and they're and you form like friendships for life because you are not only traveling together, but you're doing experiential transformative work. Like you will walk out a different person. And they're magical. They have fairy dust all over them. And we do the same sort of concept. The first few days it's detoxing, removing blocks, removing fear, looking at your grievances. And then the last half of the retreat is all about, okay, so what's the truth? And how do you now take all of this and start to apply it to your life? Like because I'm all about results. That's always what I wanted to teach. If I wanted people to know that they could talk to me and say, she's going to give me a transformation. And again, what we were saying earlier, if I'm going to support, I can only transmit what I've got. If I'm going to support someone's transformation, I have to have gone through that metamorphosis. I have to have known like someone's falling apart going, great, you're exactly where you need to be. Or when someone's doubting, great, that's just ego backlash, So I teach people about the dynamics of the ego so they understand their own egos so that they're no longer a slave to their egos. So it's going to the root of the problem because everything starts in the mind.
Yeah, everything. Thank you so much for being on the pod. You got to come back again.
Yeah.
And I will let everybody know once the podcast is out for them to go over and listen to
Yeah.
We don't. Oh, she doesn't know the name yet, but
we don't know it yet. But we'll and with your brilliance and guidance, we're gonna come with a great name. And thank you for just your sweet energy, what you do, for creating, being so dedicated to doing this show for people. Because, like you said, it's through these conversations that this could. Not this conversation, but who knows? Again, lesson 25. We never know what anything is for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's one final message you want to let anybody out there that's listening. One final word of advice if they're struggling, if they don't see their life as having meaning or purpose. What would you tell them?
You were meant for great big things, and just find someone to support you, to remove anything that's getting in the way, because you are meant to be living that life and that purpose. And everybody has a purpose. And I know that sometimes it seems dark, or it seems like you don't, and it seems just like your life is passing you by. But commit to finding someone that can support you to really discover what you're made of, because people, when you leave this earth, there should be a problem that should no longer exist because you were meant to fix it in one way or another. So you don't want to cheat us of your brilliance.
Oh, thank you so much, Rita. I could go on and on. Until next time, I would have to say.
Yes.
And one more thing.
Don't fall off the pod.
For more on Pod With Me, check us out on our social media. On Facebook, we are Pod With Me AJA. On Instagram, Pod With Me. We're also on the Apple Podcast app and Google Podcast app. Check us out there. And that's the best way to listen to Pod With Me. This is Alex J. Aguiar. And until next time, don't fall off the pod.
It's ready.